Hey guys, once again, it is I, Non-Pro Genitus, and today we are going to be returning to a favorite plan of many, Theros. Just like the original Theros, Theros Beyond Death has granted us a veritable cornucopia of new commander cards. And today, we're going to take a look at my personal choices for the top 10. One note here is that I will not be including any reprints, so while Idyllic Tutor would have probably made the list had I included it, I wanted to focus more on some of the newer cards for Commander. So with that said, let's take a look. Starting our list, we have KUNOROS, Hound of ATHREOS. At 1 generic white-black, KUNOROS is a legendary creature hound with vigilance, menace, and lifelink that reads, creature cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards. Just looking at KUNOROS is a 3 CMC 3/3, get it because 3 heads, with vigilance, menace, and lifelink, we'd already have a very strong card on the board. But the fact that it is an absolute hate bearer, or I guess I should say hate dog, against graveyard strategies makes for a mighty fine addition to the format. And even if KUNOROS wasn't played in Commander, I would still list him, because just look at the puppers. Oh, he's a good boy. Yes, he is. KUNOROS, Hound of ATHREOS makes the list for being the bestest doggo of the set. Nyx Lotus is a 4 generic mana legendary artifact that reads, Nyx Lotus enters the battlefield tapped. Tap it. Choose a color, add an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color. Mana rocks are always going to be good in Commander, and while a 4 CMC rock that comes in tapped may be too slow for some players, allowing you to generate mana equal to your devotion to whatever color is so strong in any monocolored deck. Slap this in SRAM or Torbran for some of the best mana fixing available in decks lacking green. This is a mana rock that will easily find a home in a multitude of places, earning a cozy spot at number 9. WAVEBREAK HIPPOCAMP is a 2 generic and a blue for an enchantment creature horsefish 2/2 that says, whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card. A fantastic little card draw engine, WAVEBREAK HIPPOCAMP is powerful for one specific reason: spells. While it could have easily just said whenever you cast your first instant during each opponent's turn, our happy little horsefish instead gives the ability for all spells. This means any decks with Line of Anticipation, Vidalcan Orrery, Flash creatures, etc. will be able to draw during their opponent's turn. And of course, it still works in your basic Spellslinger deck. This fun little seahorse, or horsefish, will make for an easy addition to many a blue deck looking for even more card drawing power. ARCHON of Sun's Grace is a 2 generic and 2 white mana 3 power 4 toughness creature, Archon, with flying and lifelink that reads, Pegasus creatures you control have lifelink. Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token with flying. Starting with the biggest negative to Archon of Sun's Grace, it not being an enchantment, means it can't trigger off itself. But that is a small price to pay for a card that will generate you a veritable army of flying horsies. As a 3/4 with flying, the Archon itself will be able to block a decent amount of creatures, and lifelink will help make sure you stay in the game long enough to really generate value off of its second ability. Slot this into any Enchantress deck and you'll be creating swarm of Pegasuses. Pegasi? Does Pegasus have a plural form? It's a proper noun, I guess not. Lots of flying horsies. Once the engine gets going, it's not unreasonable to expect to cast 2 or more enchantments a turn, letting you swarm your way into a happy, flappy win. Archon of Sun's Grace is a great card and one I am very excited to play with. Dryad of the Elysian Grove is a 2 generic and a green enchantment creature nymph that says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So the obvious card to compare this to is Prismatic Omen, as they both allow you to treat each land as every basic land. This is a ridiculous degree of mana fixing, and the additional ability to drop an extra land each turn is just icing on the proverbial cake. This card is easily at home in any 3 or more color deck, especially Land Matters decks. A great card and an easy addition at the number 6 spot. SETESSAN Champion is a 2 generic and 1 green mana creature human warrior that reads, Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on SETESSAN Champion and draw a card. Enchantress is a powerful deck type known for having lots of enchantments, as well as the main Enchantress cards. From Argothian Enchantress to Verduran Enchantress, the idea of the deck is to have multiple ways to draw cards off of each enchantment you play. And with SETESSAN Champion, we gain both another way to do that, but also a potential blocker to boot. After a few turns, she'll easily be a 5/7 or a 6/8, making you a more threatening target to swing into. With an ability that makes her an instant pick for a powerful deck type, SETESSAN Champion is a strong draw engine card for our list. Nyxbloom Ancient is a 4 generic green, so 7 CMC total enchantment creature. Elemental 5/5 with trample that says, if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. If there was a contest for which mana color got the best commander support in Theros Beyond Death, green would probably skip away with that prize. Not only does Nyxbloom Ancient let you tap your lands for 3 times the mana you normally would, it lets you tap all permanents for 3 times their amount. That is an insane amount of value. Your mana rocks, your mana dorks, everything you tap for mana is going to tap for so much more. Get this guy out and ramp into a game-winning Finale of Devastation, Exsanguinator, just any number of X spells. This card will ramp you and ramp you big. A powerful mana-generating elemental, Nyxbloom Ancient is generating a comfortable spot on our list. You know what I like to have? Hexproof and Indestructible. You know what I don't want my opponents to have? Fun! Oh, and also Hexproof and Indestructible. So Shadow Spear is the perfect tool in dealing with the aforementioned abilities. Shadow Spear is a 1 generic mana legendary artifact equipment that says, equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample and lifelink. And for 1 generic mana, permanents your opponents control lose Hexproof and Indestructible until end of turn. Equip cost of 2. Luxodon Warhammer is a pretty popular equipment piece for many Voltron decks, and this card gives the same trample and lifelink at a fraction of the cost. If that was all it did, it would still be pretty decent, but that second line takes this card from a simple Voltron equipment into a card many decks will run. Of course, a big part of that depends on your own meta. If nobody's playing anything with Hexproof or Indestructible, that second line becomes pretty irrelevant. Luckily, Hexproof and Indestructible are played widely enough that this will be an auto-include in a vast number of decks. Shadow Spear, Drippy Weapon of Elspeth, is a powerful equipment and an easy choice for our number 3. I know, I'm cheating here by listing all of the gods together, but if I listed them separately, they take up like half the list. And for good reason, because the gods in Theros Beyond Death are amazing in Commander. Much like the original Theros block, each of them acts as an indestructible enchantment until they become active, and if we're being honest here, you usually want them to stay that way. Enchantment removal is already one of the least played removal types there is, and having them stay as indestructible enchantments without the creature type just makes them so much harder to deal with. Of course, I feel like I really need to go into more detail about each god to justify their inclusion here, so you know what? That's exactly what I'm going to do. Next video, I will be ranking the gods of Theros Beyond Death. However, we still have our number 1 pick for this list, which is... And here we have it, the most recent powerhouse in the Simic color pair. Uro Titan of Nature's Wrath is 1 generic green-blue for a legendary creature Elder Giant with 6 power, 6 toughness that says, when Uro enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escapes. Whenever Uro enters the battlefield or attacks, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Uro can escape for green, blue, and exiling 5 other cards from your graveyard, which means you may cast this card from your graveyard for its escape cost. Hoo boy! Welcome to Value Town, USA. A 3 CMC cost gains you 3 life, lets you draw a card, and then put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. For 4 CMC and exiling 5 cards, you get to do all of that, plus you keep a 6/6 beater. Uro is the kind of card that is hard to not get value out of. Drawing cards, ramping in extra lands, gaining life, Uro does it all. Uro, Angry Nature Guy, is stomping his wrathy way onto our list at number 1. So those are my top 10 Theros Beyond Death Commander cards. But of course, these are just my opinions. There's a lot of cards I considered that I didn't end up putting on the list. Gravebreaker Lamia, Croxa Titan of Death's Hunger, Calyx Destiny's Hand, and just a bunch of others I didn't really get a chance to put on the list. I may not have gotten a chance to play with them much in advance, or they just didn't stand out to me for one of the decks I personally use. But what about you? What are your top 10 Theros Beyond Death Commander cards? Go ahead and tell me in the comments below. And if you don't have a top 10 list for Magic cards, just give me your top 10 list for whatever it is you like. Top 10 ice cream flavors, top 10 episodes of Friends, top 10 awkward ways to end a YouTube video. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Give me a like and a subscribe. I really do appreciate it. And as always, I will catch you next time.